Hi everyone, how are you today? We're live on the Essential Stencil page and on my page at I Restore Stuff right now. So if you want to jump over, if you are watching the replay, make sure you watch it over on Essential Stencils page for a chance to get a prize and comment the word replay 24 hours after we go live. And we'll be cross-posting over to Essential Stencils page today, so make sure you are joining in the conversation on the Essential Stencil page in order to win prizes. So that's for my USA friends, because Essential Stencil ships to the USA only at this stage. And right, I can see now comments on my laptop from you over on Essential Stencils page. But right now on my phone, if I'm looking up here and seeing your comments, it's on my I Restore Stuff page. So hi Cheryl, how are you? So today I'm going to be doing two sign projects. We're going to be doing some 3D stenciling using an embossing paste by Fusion mineral paint. And we're going to be, of course, using Essential Stencils, some of the fall collection. But guess what week it is? It's actually Stencil of the Month intake week. And so Stencil of the Month Club is open this week. I think, I have a feeling, if I'm correct, they're probably going to be extending that for a little bit further than the regular days, just to get some more of the stencils out to ambassadors to demonstrate those. But so this week I don't have that for you, but let your friends know, stencilofthemonthclub.com. If you do use my code I Restore Stuff, you can get the basic plan, a free month, or the premium plan, 50% off your first month. So that's with the Stencil of the Month Club that's Halloween themed this month. Hi Sue, Larry, Christy's here, Brenda's here. How are you today? So, all right, let's get started because I've got a few things to do today. I'm just going to point the camera down slightly. And I've just got a plain pine board. It's plywood, about that thick. I don't know how thick that is. I've just painted it in this mist color. It's a very, very pale blue. That's just going to be my background. In fact, you're probably going to see hardly any of that color on here, but I did want to just make sure we've got a good solid coat. So this is the color Mist by Fusion, and I do have an affiliate link that I forgot to pop in the description of the live there for the Fusion paint. So if you do want that, please comment that into the comments there, and we will get that affiliate link for you if you are interested in getting the Fusion paints. But now the stencil projects that I'm actually working on today, you can use my code I Restore Stuff on the essentialstencil.com website, and you can get 10% off using that code at the checkout. So we're just going to make sure we've got a nice, good, solid background here, even though, like I said before, we're just going to be using, this is hardly going to be seen, this colour, because what we're going to be doing is some fun, I don't know if you saw it down here, chunky knit sweater pattern. I think that's its official title. Let me have a look. We're going to be using the chunky knit pattern today. But I'm also going to be doing some fall or give thanks type sign if I get time, probably while this one's drying. And what I'd like to do is do a bit of a 3D look. If you've ever done some raised stenciling before, that's what we're doing today. So if you've never done that before, here's your chance to learn something new today here on our live. And just before I came on today, I noticed that Renee did a project using the chunky knit pattern this week. So if you are in the Stencil of the Month Club, go check out what Renee did with her chunky knit pattern stencil. It's just a really fun pattern to use, and I've been wanting to use it for a while, especially to do this 3D look on that today. So yeah, go have a look at that. Elisa, you got this chunky knit stencil yesterday along with all the other beautiful fall stencils. Yes, for those of you who got the bundle, you would have gotten this in the bundle of the fall collection, and there's still plenty available on the website there at essentialstencil.com. Yes, she did, didn't she? You saw that, Elisa, Renee's chunky knit pattern on the background. All right, I'm just going to hit that with a bit of a hairdryer right now to get that started. And then I'm also going to be incorporating, so this is the chunky knit pattern And it comes in a 12 by 16, it says one piece, but there's also, I'm doing this one-handed here, there's also a bonus, a smaller pattern right here. So we've got a smaller version of that larger pattern, and you can see that it is slightly smaller in the pattern size as well. So that would suit some of your little small, what is that, a 6 by 6 I think? So that would suit some of the smaller signs that you've got as a background or something like that. Hi Melissa, hi Brenda, great to see you on here live on Essential Stencils page today. If you're on the Essential Stencil page, they'll be picking winners from our comment section over there. So if you're here on my page and you wanted to go over there, I don't mind, that's okay. Hi Chris, and Cheryl's here, how are you? All right, so we are going to be using this. We're also going to be using this today. I do have another couple of, I've got Scarecrow transfers and a give thanks sign to do as well, but we'll see what time we have after doing this, or getting this started at least. Now this set is such a fun little piece together kind of customizable set. It's called Every Year I Fall For You, so a lovely fall design, and it's got Every Year I Fall For, and you can add all these words like, here we've got every year, pumpkin spice, football games, falling leaves, autumn breeze, so you can choose a few of those. And then at the bottom there's a little scripted and you. So I don't know if you can see that, but you'll be able to see that. I've got all the links in the description of the live there. So you can choose whichever sayings you like to see. And it also has some cute little fall leaves that are great for decorating it, the sign as well. So of course, guess what I'm going to be using for my sweater weather sign today? I just popped this one out of that. So I'm not doing this idea today, but I love mixing and matching all my stencil designs to create fun things. So we're going to be having our sweater weather, which just fits perfectly on this board. And I know someone's going to be asking me how big the board is. Well, I'll tell you, it's a little bit less than 16, it must be 15 inches. And it's about, measuring it with my stencil set here. So this is 12, so let's say 8 or 9-ish, 8 maybe? I'm not sure. So that's about how big my board is, and it's about the size of the sweater weather. So I thought this is perfect, especially for the chunky knit thing. So what I'm going to do, the idea is we're going to put the sweater weather across the center, and we're going to make this 3D. We're going to do this in 2 stages. So the first stage is I'm going to create a darker pattern. I'm going to put this either side of the sweater weather, so this is going to mark our center line, and so this will still have that underneath it. I'm going to be using this color Cambridge, which is a dark deep ocean type blue, and what I'm going to do first is create the base, and it's going to create a bit of a shadow so underneath that. Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining in our live. Make sure you join in the conversation. If you do have any questions, let us know in the comments. If it's your first time stenciling, let us know that. We love it when you share our lives, so if you are able to share it out today, that'd be great. I'm going to put this either side. What we're going to do first is a bit of a base, then we're going to add a 3D layer over the top of it by mixing some texture, some embossing paste with a colour, so you can do that as well. So stay tuned, it's going to be fun. Now, what I do want to do is create a bit of this one doesn't quite reach all the way over the top. I do want to probably tape that down slightly. I've dried this off, it should be completely dry now. I'm just going to eyeball where I think the centre might be. Around about there, and tape that off at the ends for now. Actually, what I do need to do, because I'm going to be doing a little bit of shadowing here, I'm going to add that right at the very end here. Oh, Janet's excited to use her fall bundle. That's amazing. I love it. And I love seeing some of your posts. If you tag Essential Stencil, if you've got a page, or if you post your picture, images of your designs, if you post them publicly, tag Essential Stencil so they can see your lovely work. But over on the Stencil of the Month Club Facebook group, so if you are in or if you're a member of the Stencil of the Month Club, join the Facebook group and you'll see so much lovely inspiration over there. And we love it when you share your ideas and share your inspiration, or even if you've been inspired by something that the ambassadors have done. We love it when you show us your work and what you're working on. So that is always so much fun. Some great inspo over in the group. Okay, Donna, you're excited to see how this turns out. Me too, because and Elisa, thank you so much. Yes, my back is feeling so much better, guys. I'm doing my exercises that the physio told me to do, and so it's so much. It's like 90% there, so I'm really thankful for that. All right. We've got our sign down here. I could stencil that, the words. I'm probably going to do that before we do our 3D section over there. We will do that as well. I'm going to be using this design, and I'm going to put it right there. It just fits perfectly to the edge of my board. So I'm guessing, remember I guessed my board it's just slightly smaller than 16. I reckon it's about 15, a little bit less, 14.5 maybe inches. That's my good guess. So to do this, we're going to actually use one of our Essential Stencil brushes. These come in a set of 4. This is the 7/8 inch. And we'll need a cardboard piece to offload onto. Donna, you ready for sweater weather? We've just had our sweater weather over here in Australia. If you didn't know, I'm in Australia. And if you're here if you are from Australia and you're watching here on my I Restore Stuff page, you can get any of these fusion mineral paints right on my website, irestorestuff.com. So I'm offloading. Didn't mention that bit, but if you've seen our videos anywhere on our Essential Stencil page here, thank you so much for sprinkling, guys. Thank you. Then you'll know that we offload as much as we can off the brush first before we go on with our stenciling. So I'm going to add our sweater design, and I'm just making sure it's this side of that. And like I said before, this is just going to form our base. This is a deep dark blue colour going over the top of mist, a really pale pastel light colour blue. It's like an icicle blue, I feel like an icy kind of blue. All right, going over now, I've done a few swirls, making sure we haven't got our brush too loaded, because if your brush has too much paint on it, that paint will creep under the stencil and cause your edges to be all fuzzy. We call it sort of bleeding under the stencil. So, all right, that's around about, oh, we've gone a long way, around about as much as we can do. Now this is actually going to be, I'm going to be going over the top of this with a 3D embossing paste. And so it doesn't matter too much if this isn't fully covered or heavy enough, because it will all be covered over. But you'll see in the end what my idea was. Hopefully, I haven't done this before, but I'm creating a shadow for underneath our raised stencil. And so that's going to be the background. So there's our cable net, no, I call it cable net, chunky net pattern so far. Now I'm just going to use this same side. I could, shift it, but why do that? Why dirty some more of the stencil when I could just do it this way? I'm going to turn this around and go like so. So we've got our words right here, and see how I've actually stenciled across into the words? Well, that's going on top. It's almost like this has caused, oh, you can't see. Sorry, guys. I will lift that up a little easier. So the stencil that I've laid down here says sweater weather, if you've just joined me. And so even though it's gone across there, it's acted like a bit of tape to tape off that area. So let me point that down a little further so we can see. And don't forget, this week is Stencil of the Month Club week. intake, and so they are accepting new members this week only. I think that there could even be a little extension on that, but they will let you know, probably in the comments. But yes, so if you join the Stencil of the Month Club, they've got the basic plan. You can get a free month using my code IRestoreStuff, or on the premium plan, get 50% off your first month. So don't be confused. I'm not using that stencil today. It's actually Halloween themed stencils. So if you love Halloween, then you can go to stencilofthemonthclub.com and join that now to get your stencils in time for crafting. But I do want to also mention that if you do join Stencil of the Month Club, they are also doing exclusive rub-on transfers in the club now. So that's another bonus idea to join. So if you do join the club, you'll have access to some exclusive transfers that are really fun. They had some candy cane ones there I noticed in the Stencil of the Month Club group that were available to club members. So if you're a club member, they would have emailed you info on all of that. So I know that a lot of people are loving those new transfer designs, and another good reason to join the club. And you get sent a stencil pack every month, and it's like a set of stencils. It's not just one stencil, it's a set of 3 stencils. And if you're in the basic plan, it's a smaller version of those larger stencils that are available. So that's at stencilofthemonthclub.com. You can go and see all of the stencils that are available this month. And yes, Brenda, the embossing stuff is from Fusion Mineral Paint. So if you do want to use that, use my affiliate link and you can grab a hold of that. I think it's called Smooth Embossing Paste. And this is a bit of a process today. We are starting with the first layer, and this is going to be a shadow for the background of our chunky knit pattern. So it's not going to look exactly as you see it here, but it'll have some layers. Joyce says, looks interesting. Okay, I'm just going to have my hand in the way here for a second so I can just hold this down, because I don't have any tape holding this part down for me. So, and as I said before, I've got the stencil here for the word sweater weather, and it's going right across the center, and it's actually causing it to be like a bit of tape and blocking this from getting too far into where the words are. All right, so let's have a look at that. So far, here's what we've got. I probably could come a little bit to the ends there as well, but that's what we've got so far. Now we're going to let's do those words in the center, and I'll make sure that I don't go outside the taped lines, but we can do that now because once the 3D part of the stencil is all going, it'll be harder to sort of put that stencil on the inside, I feel. So I'm going to go ahead and do the sweater weather right now. It's almost turned out a little bit greenish. It's a bit of a greenish blue, this colour. It's called Cambridge, and it's a Fusion Mineral Paint colour. I've just recently done a gorgeous bedside table furniture piece. If you want to go check out my blog post at irestorestuff.com. It's my second last blog post that I did on there. I just released another blog post this week. If you're into furniture painting, you'll get lots of inspirational ideas on my website and my blog posts there. Just hit the blog tab and you'll be able to look back through the different blog posts I've written lately. And the last one I did was a beautiful silky oak dresser, and I painted it with some Australian artisan brand of mineral paint. It does. Sandy says it kind of looks like tire tracks too. I'm hoping that it'll look like more chunky sweater when I add the 3D medium into it. So we'll see how it looks. Now I'm going to be mixing this colour into the 3D paste, the embossing paste, and so I'm interested to see how much lighter that is, because this is the paste here and it's kind of a light a really light kind of greyish off-white colour. And so when you mix something like that, it's probably going to lighten this colour here. So I'm going to mix that together with that. And so then when I offset that from this as a shadow for the background, it should, I'm hoping it looks great. Okay, so just going to pop this into a little plastic bag for a minute. It is, the stencil is perfect for sweater weather, and you could use it just as a background for other words and things. Now I am going to lift this up now, but I may just to show you, but I may just put that back down to create our 3D embossing thing, because I think that'll look great as well. So let me just pop that in, and I can see a little bit where it's the stencil was showing through there, but that's okay. So far that's what we've got. Sweater weather. Now let me put this back down, and we're going to create that shadow look on the dried stencil. I've also got another board over here. If you stay tuned, we'll do another project on this board that I've painted white using the give thanks to the Lord, but I just want to use the give thanks part and this fun rub-on transfer with the scarecrows on it. It's got a girl, it's got a boy, it's got hay bales, it's got a cornucopia, corn. I feel like we're in a cornfield here. So I want to try and use some of those elements on that board, and I think we'll have time to do that. So let's get started with this 3D part. I feel like that's dried enough now. So my idea is, and just so we can see it nicely, I wonder if this, yeah, it does. It translates exactly the opposite if I flip the thing around this way. Just wanted to make sure that that fit exactly on there. And what I'm going to do, no, it's not going to fit that way, so I have to do it. Yeah, I may have to use this one, because I want this edge over here so that it doesn't have more stencils on here to go off the edge. You could do that, but anyway, I'll just try it this way. Now I want to go, so when you're creating a shadow, what I mean by that is we have the stencil exactly in line, then we shift it up slightly and then shift it across. You could go either way, just have to sort of shift it at a bit of an angle so that it creates a bit of a shadow effect, and then we'll do our embossing over there, and it hopefully should work like that. But I've got some, I've got that stencil under here, and I don't want to accidentally get that on the words, so I am going to put a bit of a tape. Oh, that fits my words perfectly. So I'll put a bit of a tape across there. I don't want to stick it too much, so what I do is I put the tape on my apron, I don't know if you can see that there, and de-stick it a bit. That's just in case, so I don't want to get anything on the words. All right, now I've got to just make up my 3D mixture, and then I'll probably do a little bit of a, get this on again. I might actually move it closer to that way so that the shadow's kind of coming inwards. And I will have to tape up this row right here if I'm doing that. Because there's little bits that are showing through on that stencil line, so I am going to make sure we've got that completely covered. Are you following along so far? All right, so I don't want this row right here, so I'm going to put that right there. Okay, now that I know sort of about where I'm going to plant it, roundabout, create a bit of a shadow effect, that's where it's going to be. Let's mix our embossing paste with a bit of, and I'm going to use my Essential Stencils rub-on transfer tool to This is perfect for using for embossing paste. So we've got our embossing medium here. I've given it a bit of a stir, but I want to just put some in a jar. I don't know how much I'm going to use, so I don't want to run out and then have to mix a different lot. So maybe I'll make it extra bit. It's probably way too much. It's hard to sort of estimate how much you're going to use. I don't use it that often. All right, so we've got a good chunk in there. Now, this can be used just plain as it is and spread across just as the texture, and you can paint on top of the texture, or you can mix paint into the texture and create a coloured texture that way. So I'm going to be doing that today, and I didn't think about this rationally in order to pour, and I don't want to get it all over the edge of my pot, so let me be prepared here. And I'm just going to tint that colour, maybe a little more, and make sure it's all off the lid area. So this is the colour Cambridge that I just used for this stencil part here, which is going to be our base and our shadow. So now we're getting that paint and we're mixing it into the texture. So while I'm doing that, let me know what you're working on today. Are you, oops, I've got lots of paint in there, so I might have to add a bit of texture just to make it a bit more solid. Let me know, are you crafting today while we're doing this? Yes, Sally, you wondered how I shadowed. In fact, I've got lots of videos where I've done that shadowing technique, and if you go to the video tab right here on Essential Stencils Facebook page, you can see some of those videos. There's actually probably a playlist still that has shadowing where you can look at where I've done that. Someone just said that they did these on did the embossing or raised stenciling on the angel wings, and I've done that before too. It's absolutely beautiful way of showcasing those angel wings. Got my mix. Yeah, Rhonda, you just use joint compound as a medium for raised stencil. Yep, that's a good idea too. Yeah, Susan's asked, good question. Can you keep the texture for another project if I have too much, like if I've mixed up too much? Yes, you can. You can use it for another project. It probably will harden if it's got too much air in the container that you're putting it in. So just kind of make sure it's really kind of that, like use a little tiny container that's going to fill it to the maximum. Okay, so I could use a knife, but I like the idea of using this tool because then it's going to give me a nice even flow. I do not have areas that I can tape off the board, so I am going to have to use my hand to just really steady this and make it, oh look, it almost fits like right across, but I think I'll have to use 2 strokes there. Okay, let me just wipe off this knife. So it has created a slightly lighter colour than the dark there. So maybe that'll show as lighter, we'll see. All right, here goes. This is the chunky knit pattern. I'm trying to do this sort of on an angle. Maybe I'll do it this way so I can make it come down. Arrange it. Oh, Gay, you're doing a round with Pardon the Noise, it's football season. I love that one. That's great. Thank you, Judy, so much for sprinkling. Yeah, I was asking what you're crafting, so let me know. Keep going, guys. I'll catch the comments every now and then. I love to go through and have a read of them afterwards, so that's all good. Now, I think I do have plenty here, and I didn't need it all mixed in well, so I didn't need to add the extra. So I'm just going to grab a chunk of that, put it on the end of my embossing tool, and this is all water-based, and so it does come off in water quite easily. And here goes. Is anyone else feeling nervous? I'm feeling rather nervous. Oh, we don't want to lift that up too much. Okay, so I'm going to spread it sort of lightly across the top. And really we're just spreading. We don't have to raise it too much. It doesn't have to be really super high. It just has to, I'm holding my breath, can anyone tell? It just has to go across the top of the stencil. So if we need extra, I'll add extra on there. I can see it's not coming down here, so I might just add a bit down this way. It does make a bit of a mess, but you can scrape it all off. See this top layer I'm doing now? We can scrape that off the stencil and use it again. So it's slowly getting down to the end here, adding a little bit more each time. Will the compound wash off the stencil? Yes, it will. It's all water-based, so it will wash straight off the stencil. So remember, I've only got one side and I've got to do the other side yet, so we'll see. If you do need it to dry, like, so this is, it's obviously going to be a lot thicker than paint to go on. And so you will want to give it a long drying time. Now remember, we've just slightly offset this from our original stencil. I'm just going to go across a little bit there. If I can still see the stencil underneath, I feel like it's not 3D enough. I just want to cover that stencil over so that I'm not seeing the outline of the stencil too much. So I'm not sure if you can see that as well if I'm not really super duper close. But here's how we lift it up. Are you ready? Michelle, this technique's new to you. That's awesome. I'm glad I can show you something new today. All right, let's see how we go here. Oh, it has worked a treat. So I will lift it up for you, but before I do, hang on, let me just show you a little bit and then I'll show you some more. Can you see the 3D look? Can you see the darker shadow underneath that? Hopefully you can see that underneath. And then if I go sort of on the side there, maybe you can see how it is kind of, it has chunked up and gone a bit 3D. It looks great close up, guys. So that's our chunky knit pattern, but let me show you how we can just get that off. I'm going to actually use this card stock because it will go all over everywhere. So what we do then is just scrape that extra off and wipe it into the pot for our next layer. And when you're doing this, you'll usually have to, in between, now I've got to do the other side, I want to make sure that the back is quite clean, because if the back's not clean, it will get onto the other parts of my stencil. So see how we can just sort of reuse that. Let me just pop that there. So you can see there's stuff on the back of it. I feel like I want to use another side, but I'm not sure that I can now. You know what? I am going to have to wait for that to dry in order for me to put this down, because I don't want it sitting on top of my layer there. So I will use a hairdryer on that, but that's how we can get started on our next project. And I will use my wet cloth. It does make a mess, doesn't it? I'll use my wet cloth and just go over this really quickly so we don't have any high bits on there, and hopefully that will dry too. And then I will get on this with the hairdryer also. And I'll clean it properly when I'm finished my live with a bit of awesome spray, because the fusion paint tends to stick really well. This is paper. Okay, so I'm just popping this aside. We'll let that dry. I do have some paper towel, so we can let that dry on the paper towel. But yeah, you can see the difference there where I've got, this is the shadow that we created first, and then I've created this 3D look. I'm trying to get that up close so you can kind of get the 3D feel but it's a bit tricky to see, isn't it? All right, we'll be drying that in a minute. Let's go on with our second board here and see how we can finish this one up. So I've painted that background with a nice white paint. If you were going to leave this too long between drying, I would put a cover over the top of this, but I think that it should be okay while we are doing our second piece here. I'm just going to pop a wet cloth right on top and make sure I don't have dirty hands while I'm trying to do my next one. Okay, so for this next stencil idea, we have got the Fall Scarecrows rub-on transfer and the Give Thanks to the Lord for He is Good, which is a single set. So I want to put this right over here for the Give Thanks, and I'm just going to quickly use some tape to tape off. Oh good, Donna, you could see it clearly? Great, I'm glad. Now I'm going to actually, you can do this on your apron or sort of de-stick it a bit. I want to just tape off the floral part because I'm going to be using these other rub-on transfers, and so instead of having the flowers there, which are just absolutely gorgeous by the way, instead of using those, I'm going to be using the rub-on transfers to decorate this part over here. So we just need a bit of tape to tape all that off. Let's see. I also need to tape off this. Probably only need a little bit there. Oop. There, little leaf. See if I can get this on an angle. Oh, how are we going? And then I'm just going to tape off this letter L is coming up a little bit onto the board. The rest of the letters fit off the board, so that'll be fine. Just making sure all those areas I'm not going to hit accidentally with my stencil brush. And then we'll add some transfers over here to decorate it. All right, I've got a nice brown colour here from Fusion that's that might fit in nicely with the fall ideas. So let's do the colour Woodwick. This also works great as a nice stain or wash if you're doing that kind of thing on furniture. So, all right, I've just got little areas of my cardboard over here left that I can offload on. I'm just going to dab that in the lid of the paint because there's heaps there, lots there. You need ideas for the transfers? Yes. Well, I'll give you some today. And I'll show you how we can use those. We're going to probably add the cornucopia over here, I think. I do love the scarecrows though too. Can't wait to use those on something. All right, so now that we've got enough on the brush, we've offloaded as much as we can. It's a nice lighter brown. So, and going on the white, you can see that it's got a bit of a nice tan feel to it. So we can swirl quite quickly like this because I've hardly got any on my brush. If I had a lot on my brush, it would all bleed underneath the stencil and you have those fuzzy edges. So we don't want that. And it's up to you how solid you want this to look. You can actually do 2 coats on this brown colour. Just lay your stencil back down exactly where you want it. Go over it again to give it more of a solid finish if your colour isn't looking like you would like it. If you would like a bit more of a solid coverage, it's so much easier to add. I think I had too much on my brush then. I hope I didn't cause that bleed through underneath there. But yes, it's easier to go over with a second coat than to try and, you know, get that bleeding out from under your stencils. So there we go. So that's quick and easy to just go over that. I feel like I'm just sort of almost doing a second coat going backwards here. Usually you would absolutely dry. Yeah, that's the colour Woodwick, Rhonda. And it is very similar to the colour of a wick. Okay. A little bit more extra coverage. Usually you would wait for that first coat to dry properly before you go on with the second coat, because sometimes it will pull off that first coat layer. Especially if you're doing it over the top of paint and not a stain or something. All right, another little plastic bag in case I want to do that second coat. I'll just don't want my brush to dry out, so just pop it into either a plastic bag or into a wet cloth so that it's not going to dry out for you. All right, so we have got there our give thanks words, and I will dry that off. Let that dry off in a minute. Oh, you know what? I nearly got this on there. While we're waiting for that to dry, and I'll get the hairdryer up here too because we do want to dry off my 3D look over there to show you how that will turn out. Let's start cutting out some of these designs that we want to use on our sign. All right, so if you've just joined me, it is Stencil of the Month Club intake this month. I'm not using those stencils for this month's intake today, but I believe they've extended the Stencil of the Month Club for a couple of days to allow people to jump in and join. Oh, Essential Stencil said there's only 39 left of that give thanks scripture, this one. So that, obviously it's been a little bit popular, so if you do want that one, I think it's great for all year. You could do that sort of all year round kind of thing, couldn't you? All right, I want to try and do this, and I have the idea of having some of these, like the corn. There's a couple of different corns here. Grapes, let's have a look at some of these things and see if we can get them coming out of that. There's a little gourd or something. Is that a pumpkin, melon kind of a thing? Don't know if I've seen these in Australia. You'll have to help me out with those. What are they called? What do you guys call them? I know that sometimes we call things, you call things pumpkin that we call other things. So we have different names for vegetables here in Australia for different types of things. Okay, so we can have sort of that coming out of there. We can have some corn coming out of there. Do you have a different name for this kind of corn? What is this one called? It's the dark kind of corn. Do you eat it like that? Oh yeah, gourds. Yes, gourds. Gourd. Gotcha. And what about this corn? Is it still called corn? Is it a purple corn or something? Do you have a name for it? Like I was saying, we have different names for some things over here in Australia, and sometimes when I say things, I'm sure people have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay, we've got some grapes, we've got some of the Indian corn. Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you guys. See, you're educating me. I should be educated with all the American things. My husband's American. Let's do some more leaves. We could scatter those around the place, couldn't we? Could even scatter some leaves in here. Very cute. I do love this little girl, Scarecrow. All right. I like the hay bales too. You know, you could put hay bales there with all the things. You could put a few not husks, stalks, corn stalks on there as well. All right, I wanted to try this idea, and the idea is to, hey, if you're watching on my I Restore Stuff page here on my phone, you can jump over onto the Essential Stencil page for a chance of winning some prizes at the end of our live. They're doing a giveaway over there. We're cross-posting today on both sites. I'm going to turn this around to see what it looks like, because the other day I did some pies and I'm telling you, one of them was a little crooked. I'm going to maybe go about there, and because I want things to be sort of coming out from it. And then we'll put this down first as a base, and I want to sort of, what I'm going to do is make it look like it's in there. So we're going to have to cut our Indian corn, for example. How many corns did I have? I've only got one other one. Let me see if I've got another. I'm not sure how many will fit, but we'll see. See what fits. Apples would be great. Yes, that's a great idea, Brenda. No, there's no apples on this one, but great idea. Okay, so I'm going to remove the white paper backing from the back of here and lay it down around about where I want it. I'm going to tip it even more. Rub it down with my fingers, and so the back is kind of quite sticky, and then we're going over it with our tool. This is a clean one. It's not the one I was using before for my 3D looking stencil. So we're going to rub all around there. And I just like to make sure that I'm just going on the plastic and not rubbing on my paint, because sometimes that'll scratch your board, so we don't want to do that. And let's see how it's lifting now. Yep, it's lifting a little bit. If you see some bits that are lifting up and staying on the plastic, just rub it back down a little more. And yep, we're going great. Looking good. And that one has come off quite nicely. So now we just want a piece of plastic that's completely clean with no little bits sticking to it, because if there's little bits sticking to it, it's really hard to get it back in place once you've lifted it right off. Okay, so there's our cornucopia. And now we're going to get some things sticking out of it. Oh, I do have 2 of these corns. So what we're going to do is maybe cut one to make it look like it's coming out of this basket. So what we want is for it to come around, and so I'm going to shape the corn so that it looks like it's peeking out, and we'll probably put it down here somewhere. So I should maybe have a pen, which I don't right now. I've got a Sharpie. That might be a bit too thick. Let's give it a go. So remember, we've got plastic on the top of here, so it doesn't matter that I'm drawing, because the actual transfer itself is the in between the white and the plastic. So we're not actually drawing on the corn. Okay, so we've got our corn, and I want to kind of shape it around about like this. So if I put that line there, hopefully that'll give me an idea where I'm meant to cut. And so here we go, cutting the corn. Sort of a bit of a edge. Let's see now if that's going to fit nicely right where I thought it was going to. Where did I have it? Here. Oh, there it is. I'm sort of looking at this going, where did I have that thing? All right, so that's where it's going to go. So now, taking it off, the backing, and try and get it right where I thought I had it. There we go. Now it's going to look like there's corn tucked up inside the cornucopia. And you could do that with any of the other items as well. And I have to give a shout out to my husband, who actually was the thought behind this process. He said, oh, you could just cut the pieces and put them in there to make it look like that. So his idea, good one, Marty. So can you see that? It's now going to be coming out of the basket. So yes, you can, I'm just trying to get my nails in underneath it to pick it up. Yes, you can rub on transfers on top of transfers. And that's what we're doing right now. You can layer them. Done this before on some other lives. Yes, Linda says, save the part that you cut off to use as a filler. I could do that too. Absolutely. Great idea. Where is that part? So we could literally put this and make it sort of come in there underneath, but because we're layering, I'm not sure that that was going to work for that. But you know, it could be a bit stuck out on the side of here. It could be coming out from under the basket. You could very well do that. So let's add this corn, and this one we're just going to put it, the Indian corn that I've now you've reminded me of the name of it. We're just going to let this one come straight out of the basket as if it's about to fall out. So it's not going under, but oh, let me show you that up close. So now you can see it looks like the corn is coming out of the basket, doesn't it? Because we've cut it to the shape of that. So we'll try and do that with maybe the grapes. We could cut the grapes and have them poking in there, coming out like that. let's let this one just come out here, and it's going to be right on the edge. So we're layering some rub-on transfers here. Transfers upon transfers. This one is coming over the edge, so it was easier to pick up. Sometimes my nails aren't grabbing it properly. Oh, this one's really easy to come off. Beautiful. Just smooth it down over there with your hands. So there we've got the corn coming out from the inside. It's kind of toppling out. Let's see if we can get these grapes to sit up inside the basket like that. So again, if I had a different pen, but maybe a pen wouldn't work on the plastic, so the Sharpie's working fine for right now. So I'm trying to imagine in my head where this is coming across and where our grapes can kind of sit about there. So I've got to kind of look a little bit here. Imagine those, the weaving of the basket. Hopefully I've got this right. Okay, so that's about where it's going to go. We'll give it a go. So you can see I've drawn a line there where I'm going to cut the grapes. And as was suggested earlier, we can use the end for other, another part of the design as well. And remember that the Sharpie's not going to show on the transfer because we've used it on top of the plastic on top. So here is our grapes, and they're going to sit right inside here. Removing the backing, lining it up around about where it should go, and using our tool to rub it on. This way you can fit so many more transfers in your picture when you're layering it like this. So today, so far we've done some 3D embossing. If you missed that earlier, we did some embossed stenciling or raised stenciling using Fusion's embossing paste, but there are lots of other mediums out there that you can use for doing that. And we used the chunky knit sweater pattern. I don't know if you can see that just in the view of the camera there. So here's the one with the raised stenciling. This is our shadow for the background that you can kind of see there. Okay, that's come off really easily as well. Oh, I like that. So let's see. Oh, the leaf might have been slightly over the top, but you can see that it looks like it's sort of coming out of the basket. We'll probably cover that leaf anyway and have something else coming out of there. We could even have another bunch of grapes kind of spilling out and then something on top of that. So if I do use these grapes, look, let's say there's grapes behind the gourd. We could do that. And pop those just out here. So let's do that, because our gourd, we could have that here, and our grapes, well, grapes would usually be laying down about there. So let's just add the grapes anywhere. Oh, literally, you could put them over here, couldn't we? Let's do it. I'm just going to be putting them in random places, you all. Why not? And then we'll have our gourd coming out there. Or does that look like the gourd is squashing the grapes, you know? Maybe I'm not doing this correctly. I just didn't want to waste my little bunch of grapes that I'd cut off. We'll see how it looks. You can do yours different. Don't do what I do if I'm making mistakes, okay? This is us experimenting together. Oh, that just all came right off. Easy. So we've got a little bit of a bunch of grapes right here. And now we're going to place our gourd somewhere around on top of that. Actually, we could even have some Indian corn. Maybe some leaves. Maybe there's going to be a leaf sort of sitting behind the gourd. So if you want something to be behind something else, you'll have to put that down first. So get your layers in the correct order. And I'm just kind of thinking, imagining if there's a leaf down here. And these really not taking very long at all. Just rub your plastic down. Beautiful. Now I can pop the gourd on top. And there's plenty of other things here on both of these sheets that you could use that are nice and small like this to add to our design. There's our gourd. We could even add another gourd to the cornucopia over here. I feel like there's still some space we could fill in there. And then of course you could stencil your image in any colour that sort of coordinates with the full transfers. I've got a half a corn here. I could actually have that coming out as well. All right, let's put we'll put another couple of leaves somewhere. We could add leaves down the bottom here. Have one coming this way again. You could just literally come up with all sorts of designs. Every sign is going to be unique if you use these transfers, because no one person is going to put the transfers down in the same way, are they? So let's have some corn coming out this way. Maybe we'll have some corn coming out on top of that leaf right there. And then maybe what else could we add? There's another gourd. It's a bigger one, might fit. Just a matter of layering all of the things. Maybe put something on the bottom edge going off, Wendy says. Yeah. You mean actually coming off the board, maybe. You could do that. Okay, so just rubbing that on again, lifting. Oh, this one wants to stick a bit. What's going on? There we go. Coming off. There it is. So there's our corn coming off down there. So let's have a look. We still need something else coming off down here. Maybe let's add some more leaves around the bottom. That would be fun. And we could add another corn. I think it needs another corn down here. It's hard to see this upside down, how it's going to look. If I did this again, I probably could even put that corn underneath, but let's see. It sort of needs to come off there. Throw a leaf up in the sky here, as if it's literally falling down, just to add a bit of fill to that space. And then we need to finish up our chunky knit sweater sign to show you the finished look of that. Let's add this really quickly, coming down out of there. Whoops, a little bit close to the other one, but you can see, you get the idea. You can just add and keep layering, and I'll probably have another look at this and put it on my shelf and stare at it and think, what else does it need? Maybe I'll go over the top of this again, over the top of that with the woodwick colour that I used, to make it a bit bolder on a second coat. So that's the give thanks with a grateful heart. I think, no, give thanks to the Lord for he is good stencil. And then the rub-on transfers for fall. So there you go, you get a great idea of what we've got going on with that give thanks sign. Now let's get back to our chunky knit sweater. Oops. And maybe because we've run out of time today, I'll just leave it as this one side done, and I'll do the other one. And because you saw how I did that. If you did miss the 3D look, let me just show you again. And I will do this side up the top after the live to finish it all off, and I always post my pieces either on the Stencil of the Month Club or on my page, I Restore Stuff here. So let me show you that. There's the 3D look right there. And hopefully you can see that it's 3D. So what we did, if you go back and check the replay, we created a bit of a shadow using the color Cambridge. So it's just a deep dark blue. You can use a lighter color if you want. Usually you'd contrast that shadow a little bit more. But I mixed then the Cambridge with the Fusion's embossing paste and created a 3D look. So I mixed and made that color into a 3D color. So now that's got to dry really well and set before I then try this layer, because otherwise it will sit on the top there. So that's what we've been doing today, and Essential Stencil is going to be picking some winners any minute now. So you could use a hairdryer to kind of help you to dry that along and at least get that to where it's touch dry on the top, so you can kind of lay your stencil down to do this part. That works well. Otherwise I would leave it a good day before, if you're going to paint another colour or do something else, before you touch it. But I really like the way that that's come out in that 3D look. Oops, I hope I didn't get stuff all over my chair. Yeah, this is the one we did. So I just taped it off, laid it down over there, created a bit of a shadow technique, so you can go back and check the replay. Now don't forget, in our Stencil of the Month Club, while we're waiting for our prize winners, there we are, they're here. Don't forget to use my code I Restore Stuff. Over on the main Essential site, essentialstencil.com, you'll find these stencils and the transfers and things we used today. You can grab those there and get 10% off, or join the Stencil of the Month Club and get your fun Halloween stencils this month, and you get you can save basic plan free month and the premium plan 50% off the first month. So go and check that out at stencilofthemonthclub.com. And let me just announce the winners. Now these are going to be over on the Essential Stencil page, so if you're one of the people watching on my page, you won't see that. The winners are Sharon, great name, Linda and Joanne. So Sharon, Linda and Joanne, please email support@essentialstencil.com, and you have won a stencil prize this week on our live. So congratulations to those people, and I'll see you again for another live next week on Essential Stencils page or right here on my page. So I can't wait to see you then. I'm so grateful that you could join me for sweater weather, and give thanks. Don't forget, give thanks. So here we go. See you next week, guys. Bye.